everyone, welcome back to Fascinating Fantasies. I'm Avery, and today we are going to talk about a friendly creature and a not so friendly creature. So first off, I'm going to start off with a friendly creature, and its name is a brownie. Now, brownies, they are creatures that live in your home, and they like to do your housework. So they will clean up if you need some help. They will take care of your animals. They will help with the dishes, help with laundry, anything like that. Milk the cows. There's a legend that they would help with the brewing of the beer. They would be given a little offering of the first batch of the beer, and they would give it in this little stone called a brownie stone, and they would help with the fermentation and the ripening of the beer. Now, if you think about it, a brownie, that sounds amazing to have a little household creature in your home that just does all your chores, but you have to be very respectful for them or they will leave. If you have a brownie in your home, you should offer them. They like homemade cakes and they love honey. They also like cream and beer, of course, and some brown bread, but preferably they like sweets, honey, cakes, cream, things like that. There's a legend saying that even if the mistress of the house has gone into labor, they would call the doctor, like when doctors came to your home instead of you go to the hospital, they would actually call if the mistress of the house is going into labor. What they look like. So, I have a picture, but I'll show you later. They are about 20 inches tall. So I have a measuring tape because my mind can't see in my head what 20 inches is. 20 inches is about this big. So fairly big, actually. The catch is, they really don't like to be seen. They are normally invisible. They can show themselves if they want to, but they really like to stay invisible. And most of them like to stay naked. They do not like to wear clothing, or they wear very, very, very tattered, messy looking, tattered clothes. Their appearance, along with the 20 inches, is long, brown, scruffy hair that goes head to toe, covers their body. They appear wrinkly, like a wrinkly old man. And they're normally men. There are female brownies, but normally the ones that help in the house, the ones that you see, are typically men. So, yes, brown hair, wrinkly face. The Scottish lowland brownie, they have no nose, they just have two holes for their nostrils. And the Highland brownie, they have no fingers and toes, just like little stubs. And so I'm going to show you a picture of what somebody has drawn, what they depict, what a brownie looks like. So as you can see, this picture of the brownie depicts the lowland and the highland brownie. So as you can see, he's only got two little nostrils, He's got little stubs for hands, and he's got some tattered clothes on, the brown hair covering his body, the little wrinkly face, and his skin is normally brown. So that's the picture. So I couldn't remember exactly where they all lived, so I'm gonna read from my little book. So the Brownies, they live in the British Isles, they live in Cornwall, Northern England, Scotland, Orkney, and Shetland, and have even been seen in the Ireland. Okay, now I'm gonna tell a story about the Brownies. So the Brownies are notorious for leaving your home if you give them clothes. So in my last video, I talked about how if you give a fairy or fairy-like creature clothes, they normally leave you forever. So in England, there was this hall, and they had a brownie who lived in the kitchens. They called him the Claud Lad, and he was notorious for throwing plates around the kitchen, just throwing them around, if the maids and the servants cleaned them. So he didn't like the fact that they would clean them because he wanted to clean them, which is kind of funny and silly. So they caught on to this, and they would just go to bed without cleaning up the kitchen, and then in the morning they would be clean. But one day, a maid had overheard the brownie say that he was miserable and he did not want to be there. He didn't want to be there, and he wanted to be laid. Now, what that means to lay a brownie is to make them leave forever, like to forcefully make them leave a place. So what the maids decided to do was they decided to make him a set of clothing. They made him a little green cloak, I believe, with a hood, and set it in his little corner where they thought that he lived. The brownie was actually very, very happy and excited that he got this clothing because he knew that he could leave. So he got the clothing, and then the next morning, kitchen wasn't clean, nothing, because he left. He left forever. So if you have the moral of this story is if you have a brownie who is misbehaving, or you have been rude to, or you have mistreated, and they start to act up, because obviously they're going to act up, they haven't been respected. The way to get rid of the brownie is to give them a set of clothing or some sort of clothing. They will leave you forever. But if you have a good relationship with your brownie and you respect them, you should not give them clothing, because if you give them clothing, then they'd be like, why are you giving me this? And then they would leave you forever. They say that the happiness of the brownie in your home is the happiness of the home. So if your brownie is happy, your house runs smoothly, you have luck, you have happiness, you have a good life. If your brownie is miserable, then your life is going to be miserable, and it is on you because you should have respected them. So yeah, that's a really cool story about how the brownie works and how we should respect them and just live with them. So yeah, that is the friendly creature. Now we're going to go to the unfriendly creature of today's topic. Okay, so this creature I'm going to talk about next is one of the most bloodthirsty creatures I have heard of. There are a few really, really bad ones, but this one is pretty crazy story. So, they are called the RedCaps, and they are a Scottish nature spirit that live in lowland castle towers in Scotland, obviously. Now, what they do is They live in the castles and the towers where the most violence has happened. So the most evil, the most violence, the most places that blood has been shed. And the reason why they're called RedCaps is because they wear a cap on their head that is red. Pretty self-explanatory. But the trick is the reason why their caps are red is because they dye them in human blood. Yep, you heard me correctly, human blood. How they do that is they're in their castles, and wanderers or travelers, when they're traveling, the RedCaps like to throw boulders off of their castle and literally squash a person to death. When the boulder has squashed the person and this is a little graphic, but when their blood squirts everywhere, the RedCap will scoop up the blood and put it back on their head, and their cap is dyed red. And they will do that over and over again. So once the dye starts to fade, they look for another victim. So yeah, that's a pretty scary Scottish elf that you definitely do not want to mess with. So, moral of the story, do not go poking around in castle towers. So the appearance of a RedCap, so that you guys know, is they are short, sturdy, old men looking elves. They obviously have the red cap. They have fiery red eyes. Their teeth are very protruding, so they're crooked and sticking out. And they wear heavy boots, and they carry a staff. And they are just something that you should definitely not want to encounter. They are about 48 inches tall, supposedly, by the stories. And I'll show you what that is. So they're definitely bigger than a brownie. So about 4 feet or 48 inches. And that's about this big. So I wouldn't say that's quite short, but I mean if they're basing it on a human, then yeah, it's quite short. So yeah, they're about that tall. So when I'm on my knees, about that. And I have a picture also to show you, a description someone has drawn, what they think a RedCap looks like. So I'm going to show you a picture. Okay, so this one, the one that I'm pointing at, this is a RedCap. And as you can see, they are not the most handsome looking creatures out there. The protruding teeth. Oh, I forgot. So they have gray, long, straggly looking hair with a long gray beard. And this is what an artist has illustrated them to look like. So today we have talked about a friendly little brownie who will be very helpful if you respect them and you honor them, and a not so friendly RedCap that if you cross his path, he's gonna squish you with a boulder. So, I hope you enjoyed the stories, everyone, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.